Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's card making video, we're going to be creating a card front that's got a vellum overlay over the top of it, and we're going to be using our gilding flakes. I've got these Manchester Tart gilding flakes from IndigoBlu, and they've got a mix of copper, gold and silver flakes in, and I thought they'd be perfect for creating an autumnal card using the Blowing Leaves stencil from A Colourful Life Designs. So I've already cut my vellum to size and I've cut it down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. I'm using Anita's A4 parchment vellum from Crafts and it's about 120 GSM, so it's not a heavyweight vellum but it's not really flimsy either. I'm just bringing in my Waffle flower grip mat because we're going to be using a stencil on the vellum, and the stencil's larger than the vellum and my magnets would just get in the way for this, so I'm going to use my grip mat, and then that way we'll make sure that the stencil doesn't move as well, because it is quite a detailed stencil, so you want to make sure that it's tacked down so that it isn't going to move when we're applying the glue through the stencil. So I'm just going to go and get my FlitterGlu. This is the tacky glue from IndigoBlu. Now there are other brands of tacky glue on the market, and basically a tacky glue stays tacky. So when it dries, it will stay tacky until you've applied flakes, glitter or foil to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to this sponge now. My bottle of glue is empty, so I'm just going to grab my other one. And these have just got a twist connection on the top, so they never get clogged, but you do sometimes just have to shake the glue down a little bit. So I'm just adding the glue all over the sponge, and then I'm going to push it in with my palette knife. Now, I've used these sponges repeatedly and they aren't as absorbent as they first were because I don't tend to wash them when I've used them. Probably that would help, but I'm just going to push the glue in and make sure that I get a good even coverage all over this. And this is going to basically act like an ink pad. So if you've not used gilding flakes before or seen anybody use them before, this is what I'm doing now. And this is going to be an easy way to apply the glue through the stencil, because you don't want the glue to be too thick either, otherwise it's going to take a little while to dry. So I'm just now applying glue all through this stencil using the sponge, and I'm just pushing it down a bit like you do with an embossing ink pad or an ink pad. And I'm just making sure that I've got nice even coverage of the glue. I am swiping it a little bit as well because my stencil's tacked down in place, so it's holding really nicely. If you've missed any areas, I can just peel the stencil back up, have a little look and pop it down again. And then we can go ahead, remove the stencil, remove the vellum from the grip mat, and then I'm going to go ahead and wash those in some warm soapy water. But you can just see on the vellum there the pattern of the stencil, and you can see where the glue's quite wet. It's like a creamy white colour. So you want to pop that aside and just let it dry before you apply the gilding flakes on it, otherwise you're just going to end up with a bit of a mess. So I've left that to one side for a minute or two, and I'm just going to show you now how you can see the glue's dried. So there's a couple of little spots of white, but that's not a problem. We can still go ahead and apply our gilding flakes now. You could leave it a little bit longer if you wanted to, but this will be fine to add our gilding flakes now. So I've got the Manchester Tart gilding flakes, and because there's a mix of colours and I really want the panel to kind of have that autumnal feel, I'm just going to pick out the gilding flakes and spread them across evenly, just so that I get distribution of the coloured flakes. Of course, if you were just using a single colour flake here, then you wouldn't need to be as picky as I am about pulling the flakes out the pot. You could just go ahead and tip some over the panel. So I'm just going to rub the flakes all over the panel with my fingers to make sure all of the tacky glue is covered. And as you rub your fingers over it, you kind of remove some of the bigger pieces of the flakes, and then you can reuse those or pop them back in the pot. But once all the tacky glue is covered, we can then go ahead and use a Scoochy foam. So I'll show you that in just a second. I'm just going to pop the flakes back in the pot. And then the Scoochy foam is just a piece of abrasive foam. Now, you can use a paintbrush for this. You could use the top of like a washing up sponge. You know, you've got that slightly more abrasive layer on the top. Something that's just going to take off the excess flake, but that isn't going to scratch your vellum or your gilding flakes. So you don't want to use too hard a hand when you're doing this. Sometimes I do, and I leave scratches all over the gilding flakes. That also leaves a really nice fun effect. But if you want to keep as much shine as possible, you don't want to be too rough with your Scoochy foam. But there you can see that lovely gilded flakes stenciled vellum background panel that we created. So how are we going to turn this into a card? Because vellum is notoriously difficult to stick to a card base because all the glue shows through it, and obviously a lot of glue can cause warping. So let me show you what I'm going to do today. I've got these A2 nesting dies from Crafts. I've got some tag dies from Alina Crafts, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut a few of these leaves as well that I've got in my stash. I've got that lovely leaf die. I think it was from a magazine actually. So I've cut out a few of the panels with some gold chartreuse and craft card. I've cut out a couple of the leaves and I've cut out one of the tags and added a little bit of thread to that. And I'm just playing around with the layout, and I just felt that the panel didn't look right against the white. So I've got an A2 craft card base that I've cut from a piece of A4 craft card. And again, I'm just kind of playing around with the layout here, working out where I want my placement before I go ahead and stick anything down. And I definitely think that the craft makes the Gilding Flakes pop a little bit more, and it really shows up that vellum panel. So let me know in the comments below whether you preferred the white background or the craft background. But once I'm kind of happy with roughly where I'm going to lay things out, I'm going to pop them to one side and just stamp a sentiment. So I've got the Kindness Silhouette stamp set from Gina Designs, and there's this lovely sentiment that says, "I've been thinking about you," and it just fits on the tag on a slight angle. So I think I'm going to add that, and I'm going to use some heat embossing. So I've just used my anti-static powder bag on the craft card just to remove any grease marks from my fingers. I've stamped the sentiment with the Wow Embossing Ink Pad, and then I'm just adding some Superfine white embossing powder from Wow. So once I've popped the excess back in the pot, I can then go ahead and heat my heat tool up on the hottest setting and then just quickly heat set that sentiment. And I think the white embossing powder really helps the sentiment stand out on the craft cardstock. So you can see as well that using the Superfine embossing powder keeps all of the detail on the lovely sentiment as well. So that's another great thing about the Wow embossing powders, that you can get some of the colours as Superfine, and then it's great for those detailed sentiments. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these two matte layers together. I've got the chartreuse and the gold. I want it in the centre of the vellum panel, so I've worked out roughly where that's going to be, and I'm just going to add some double-sided adhesive tape to the back of the vellum, and that way I know that the centre panel is going to hide these adhesive strips, so they're not going to be visible at all. I'm going to remove the backing tape from those, and then I'm just going to add a few dots of glue to the backs of some of the leaves that I've got the Gilding Flakes on. So again, the glue will be hidden by the Gilding Flakes. And then I'm just going to pop that down on my card blank, making sure that there's a nice even border of the craft card around the edge. I'm going to put my magnets on it just for a second while the glue grabs. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add some foam tape to that centre panel and pop that up in the centre of the card. This is some nice wide foam tape from scrapbook.com, and I really love it because it sticks really well. It doesn't gunk up your scissors easily, and the backing tape's really easy to remove as well. So I'm just going to pop that down in the centre of that panel there, and then I can go ahead and just glue that gold leaf to the craft card leaf. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back of that and then pop those down on the top left hand corner of the card. I do decide to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of those leaves, and again, this foam tape's from scrapbook.com, but it's really thin. I think it's about 1 mil deep, so it's nice thin foam tape. It just adds a little bit of dimension without too much bulk. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of foam tape on the back of that tag as well, and then I'm just going to tie a little bow with the string that I've got on the tag as well. So I'm just going to put a little bow on there just to kind of tidy up the tassels a little bit, and then that'll be the finished card done for today. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it's given you some inspiration for ways to use Gilding Flakes on vellum. I also hope it's given you some inspiration of ways that you can add vellum to a card, even if you've used embossing powders or an embossing folder. It's just a nice way of adding a little bit of texture to the card. So I'll leave you with some close-up photos now. All the products that I've used are linked in the description box below. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.